went back to Jordan Valley Medical Center that it meant the better their food was supposed to taste, and that their food was supposed to taste as good as I do because all the girls want to eat me up. So the better their food was, the better I was. I was also not supposed to mention Adderall in court, and I was told that if the judge asked about the Adderall, I was supposed to say Jordan Valley Medical Center has the best food in the world, guilty as charged, which was supposed to mean girls want to eat me up more than anyone else in the world, guilty as charged. I was sentenced to think I had a Roche sponsorship for drawing the Klonopin and Valium on the postcards and to reinforce the belief. I was also told that Roche was going to help me patent the nootropic supplements I wanted to get approved through the FDA for medical conditions, which is why I was hypnotized to write Nootrop Shop at the bottom of the postcard as well. And that is further evidence because since Nootrop Shop was legibly written on the piece of paper, and you can see portions of pills that I'm describing with the letters cut out in the pills, since it was part of the Roche sponsorship from the pharmaceutical company. So that's what happens when you're hypnotized in the hospital as well, in the emergency room. A method of distracting me from writing a murder witness statement I was writing was drawing, and I was hypnotized to draw something that resembled a hand cramping and to think of when my hand started cramping only while writing the word murder, while attempting to write, while writing a previous murder witness statement that I recorded. So I apologize about that. I'll read that one more time. A method of distracting me from writing a murder witness statement I was writing was drawing, and I was hypnotized to draw something that resembled a hand cramping and to think of when my hand started cramping only while writing the word murder, while writing a previous murder witness statement that I recorded in a video. I was then hypnotized to forget the small drawing was supposed to resemble a hand cramping and to cover it up by turning the drawing into ocean waves. To ensure I drew the ocean waves, I was hypnotized to draw wind blowing against a sailboat's sail to make drawing the ocean waves seem easy. I was hypnotized to imagine a river flowing from the last pen stroke in the letter R, and to draw waves coming off the bottom of the letter, and to think that the ocean waves meant Bear River Mental Health is flooded with phone calls about Matt Jester. This was a reference to when I had a friend named Jason call Bear River Mental Health and telling them to stop abusing me. I was also hypnotized to think that Bear River Mental Health would be flooded with phone calls about me if I broke my legs jumping off a flight of stairs in jail so that I could go to the hospital to get the medications I needed. I was also hypnotized to imagine staff at Bear River Mental Health having to wear flood pants with their pant legs rolled up to their knees because they were, quote, flooded with phone calls about me. I was also hypnotized to think the lyrics referencing water rising in one of Billie Eilish's songs about global warming was also a reference to water rising in the, quote, Bear River and flooding the, quote, Bear River when Bear River Mental Health becomes flooded with phone calls about me. I was also hypnotized to imagine the ending pen strokes in the letter R that turned into ocean waves was a roaring river that was a reference to the historical decade known as the Roaring '20s, which was a period of economic growth and social change. So, you can see here, this is the witness statement for the murder that I was writing, and then I described the handwriting analysis in a different video because the C and the R actually are very significant, represent something entirely different. Now, you can see the ocean waves protruding off of the bottom pen stroke of the letter R, coming up as if it was like an ocean tide. And I was also hypnotized to think that the white marks in the the white marks that were not filled in, and the lettering, the bottom pen stroke of the letter R, was light reflecting off of water, like you would see in a river. And the R also was a way to get me, because when you're thinking about a letter R, you think like I was, it was the first letter of the word that I was hypnotized to imagine, river. So, and then you can actually also see. So, I didn't exactly do this all too well, but there's the R and O. You can see I wrote waves, by the way, representing them being flooded with phone calls. And that this was supposed to represent Bear River rocks. So that's R-O. There is the C, and then the black pen strokes, you can see it looks like a letter K. At least when you cover up the top there. R-O-C-K, and then S over here, rocks. And I was hypnotized to think that it was because they were giving me my medications that I needed when I was outpatient. And then you can also see actually there were some stick figures here that I was hypnotized to draw. In the lettering, which was very, and that's actually in my name, by the way, too. And then also covering up his name. I had to tape this together a little bit, and I was actually hypnotized to mess up the drawing as well, because after, basically using me up, and like you can see here, right, that's taped back together. But regardless, using me up, right, and spitting me back out, so giving me evidence to distract me and consume my time, like these little drawings, and then hypnotizing me to mess up the evidence and impair the evidence, so that I wouldn't be able to use it. Although you can definitely see that even after removing all the tape and everything along those lines, the evidence is definitely still there, just not as clear as it is now when I kind of tidied it up a little bit. So for example, the H in my name, Matthew, you can see it looks like there's a stick figure with like a lot of protrusions coming off of his head. You could, looks almost like dreadlocks, or actually even almost like bells, like a jester hat. For example, my name was, last name was covered up, same with my middle name. Then the rest of my name, because it says Matthew, Alan Jester, and then the N in investigate is another stick figure, not as much of a stick, but more bolded, figurative of a drawing silhouette of a person, and you can still dictate the legibility of the lettering, so definitely very significant there. And let's see, so you can see also that's a coffin right there. can see there's an upside down heart. Anything else? My friend's name that was murdered was also covered up to rewrite it. This at first was an umbrella, then it turned in, then it covered up too much. Going all the way down here, actually. Covered up a lot, and then turned into like a pyramid, and I was hypnotized to think of this like as a rabbit hole here, this little road type of thing. Anyways, here we go. So you can see this is another, that's like an example of what like flood pants would look like, right? Because, the pant legs would be rolled up to, knees, a river with little ocean waves, drawn much more neatly than that one, but, let's see. There's a lot on here, but yeah, anyways, just some simple drawings. You can see, so I'll go ahead and elaborate on some of these at the end. I was also hypnotized to think that wait. Okay, read all that. When I was hypnotized, I was also told that my friend named Delaney wrote the Make-A-Wish Foundation for me, and that Donald Trump responded to the letter. They told me Donald Trump was a multi-billionaire and that he was going to make all my wishes come true and give me, quote, everything I wanted for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I was then told that the hypnosis was actually so that Donald Trump would get everything he wanted. The situation was compared to the cartoon The Simpsons, as if they were explaining it to a little kid by explaining it to me. They told me to imagine Mr. Burns, the owner of the power plant, wanting to get rid of the three-eyed fish that mutated from nuclear waste, being illegally dumped in the local pond, and Mr. Burns wanting to keep the three-eyed fish off the news. Metaphorically speaking, in the situation, Donald Trump was Mr. Burns, and I was the fish, and my hyperventilation syndrome was the fish's third eye mutation that Mr. Burns wanted to keep off the news. When I was hypnotized in Jordan Valley Medical Center's emergency room, the social worker told me that Billie Eilish's name meant something. The social worker told me that Billy meant billionaire because you can't pronounce billionaire without Billy, and that Eilish meant I wish because they rhyme. I was also hypnotized to draw a star that looked like it had one arm raised that was shooting a beam of light out of the raised arm, and to write make a wish over the beam of light, like you can see here. And to write everything I wanted on top of the beam of light because the Make-A-Wish Foundation, to think it was the Make-A-Wish Foundation logo. I was also hypnotized to draw the same star shooting a beam of light out of its hand and to write everything I wanted on top of the beam of light because the Make-A-Wish Foundation was supposed to make, quote, everything I wanted come true. I was also hypnotized to think of the old NBC public service announcement, the More You Know logo. Everything I Wanted is a reference to a Billie Eilish song, by the way. The social worker also told me they got the idea from the Mountain Star Hospital logo. I was hypnotized to think Eilish also meant eyelash because they sound similar, and to think that eyelash meant eyelash, as if being lashed with a ruler. And to think it was a reference to my grandfather telling me how he was ambidextrous and able to write with his left and right hand because teachers used to lash students who wrote with their left hand with a ruler to get students to write with their right hand. I was hypnotized to think that the reference to my grandfather being taught to write with his right hand was a reference to how I was taught to change the letter formation in my handwriting. Since I was taught to change the letter formation in my handwriting, I naturally was curious if I could find or learn anything interesting in the handwriting in the death threat letters, and discovered various similarities and patterns caused by hypnosis in my handwriting that were also in his handwriting, which was how the series of metaphors related the name Eilish with FBI handwriting analysis through a very confusing segment there. But I was also hypnotized to draw an eye to symbolize the I in FBI, and I was hypnotized to draw an eyelash on the eye because Eilish sounds very similar to eyelash. And you can see here, this is a little bit of a more visual interpretation of that. Billy equals billionaire, Eilish equals I wish. Also, let's see, I described this a little bit better in, this is a more easily understandable explanation. I thought of Dr. Seuss while writing that, anyways, so I fish and I wish rhymed, so does three-eyed fish and Eilish. Sorry about that, that's what I was trying to say. Anyways, I thought I wrote that down here, but I didn't. Wrote something else, but regardless. There are also 3 points in a triangle and 3 eyes on the fish in the Simpsons episode, an indirect metaphor, much less direct. That is one of the drawings I was hypnotized to draw was the pyramid with the eye at the top of the pyramid that you would see on the back of a dollar bill. Eilish equals eyelash. And you can see the eye visually. Eyelash like with a ruler. And to think I rule. When I thought eyelash. My grandfather was lashed with a ruler for writing with his left hand in school, and also reference how Catholic teachers lash students with rulers as a form of punishment, and this was a reference to using how they tried to condition my behavior with a psychological principle known as operant conditioning, using positive reinforcement and reward to promote behavior, and negative reinforcement and punishment to deter behavior. So, that's what they used in Catholic schools, was punishment to deter undesired behavior. And let's see, although that one doesn't come down or relate to FBI handwriting analysis necessarily like the one with my grandfather, but anyways, and then, so you can see, this is how I was, that's right, so that's an example, like FBI, Witness Protection Program, and then bolded FBI. Let's see, of course, this just explains, like, what a metaphor is at the bottom of it. So I was hypnotized to draw this on the jail cell walls, and then, so Facebook history investigation, or FBI Witness Protection Program, but regardless, so I ended up going on a 27-day hunger strike when I was in jail because the jail guards were abusing me for attempting to file a police report. And they confiscated all the phone numbers to my family and friends, so I wouldn't be able to make any contact with anybody outside of jail. I was hypnotized to draw cradles like the cradle on the album cover for the song Cradles by the artist Suburban. The song and cradle had three specific different meanings. The cradle represented how I used to rock back and forth from PTSD related to sleep deprivation because of how children are rocked back and forth to sleep in cradles. The cradle also represented various threats that I was going to be given STDs and other threats towards my reproductive health that would impair my ability to reproduce children. The cradle also represented a hypnotic seal that was used on me. A hypnotic seal is using hypnosis to sabotage future attempts to induce hypnosis. An example of a hypnotic seal would be hypnotizing a person to yell or scream at a person if anyone attempts to hypnotize them, which would most likely interrupt any hypnotic induction and deter anyone from helping that person. When the hypnotic seal was triggered, I was cued to think about the specific ideas I came up with that could potentially save innocent children from dying, and how I was forced to accept that innocent children were dying unnecessarily because I couldn't help them, while I was hypnotized to keep me from going back to future hypnotherapy sessions. The hypnotic seal made me believe that the hypnotherapists helping me were intentionally sabotaging my attempts to reverse the hypnosis so that I would believe the hypnotherapists were then responsible for the deaths of several innocent children. After learning what a hypnotic seal was, I was cued to remember a nursery rhyme I was told by Kathleen Island when I was hypnotized. The nursery rhyme was, "Hush little baby, you're going to die, Matthew's going to cry, and stay hypnotized." I described the hypnotic seal in further detail and review clips from the hypnotherapy session when the hypnotic seal was triggered, and I began crying, as well as when I discussed being forced to think of children dying during the session. I was also hypnotized to think of the cradles as coffins for children because of the metaphors relating cradles to death, and because if I had drawn several pictures of cradles on a page, it would be like a metaphorical graveyard. So if I had because if I had drawn several pictures of coffins on a page, it would be like a metaphorical graveyard. And if I drew several cradles on a page, it would be like a metaphorical graveyard for children. So this is, actually wrote this specifically, and drew that when I was cued to remember the nursery rhyme. So there's actually a lot more to this too. It's a little bit complicated, but I do describe this in detail. Feel free to, I will definitely leave a link in the description to this. It was actually on a Facebook Live video that I have the video currently. I'm going to go ahead and try to get that also on a YouTube video, but anyways, this is a little depiction, not exact by any means, but very basic shape structure, and then, a little fire. This is supposed to represent a cradle, like you would keep a child in, or that you would put a child in to sleep. So, yeah. So, and then I was hypnotized to think a watch face or a clock meant no time to die, because watches and clocks tell time. I was hypnotized to think a pocket watch meant murder with hypnosis, because pocket watches have notoriously been used for hypnotic inductions, and since my friend McKay Cody James was murdered with hypnosis, it changed the meaning to no, time to die, implying it is time to die instead of it was not time to die. This is a fairly comprehensive list of the drawings I was hypnotized to draw. Pointed letter H, stick figure, which appeared in the witness statement when I wrote my name, and this was done to actually cover up and conceal my name so that it wouldn't be legible. And then pointed letter N in stick figure and the word investigate. So, I mean, you can kind of see the steps to turn that into what it is. And then basically with letter N, what is needed is the point. Of course, it needs to be a sharp point, acute angle, but basically if the line protrudes a little bit higher than the intersection, then it will portray the impression of like a notebook. And then with a T crossing in the letter H, it would look like hands, or like me sitting on a cell phone. Let's see. So coffin, just a black box, represented Eminem's Music to Be Murdered By. Crown, Billie Eilish's You Should See Me in a Crown. The stairs, I described that flight of stairs because they gave me therapy so that I wouldn't break my legs in jail for medications. These are the pills that I described. They were colored in the outside of it, in the postcards that you can see here, slightly shaded on the outside, and you can see the bubble lettering though, or the cutout inscription there, and then you can see a portion of one here. And then let's see,